The very individuals that participated in blocking and stopping communication and opportunities are the same individuals that are concerning themselves with why these opportunities never took shape or form, or how the individual that it impacted has healed or not healed, or progressed or not progressed. The same people within the same community and the same group of bullies, clowns, and harassers who blocked communication and stole email and committed mail fraud and hacked devices and blocked emails, text messages, phone calls, etc., are the same people that are sitting back wondering if the impact had anything to do with that person's healing and ability to move forward and grow beyond their distractions and disruptions and unjust actions. See, you have a group of people that are so obsessed and hyper focused on a person's life path, soul's purpose, journey, their healing, whether or not they reached a certain plateau of healing. But they're not concerned because they are inspiring or motivating this person to heal, or they want to see this person heal and spiritually mature. They're concerned because they're trying to block or stop this from happening. They're not concerned because they are expecting and hoping for the best possible outcome. No, they are meddling and interfering because they are trying to cover up the crimes that they've already committed. They are trying to force the lies, the smear campaign, to be true. Force it. In other words, they spread a bunch of lies with malicious intent. They created false narratives. They went around lying to anyone who would listen, who wouldn't fact check, who wouldn't do their own background, their own research, and they spread these lies and falsities to their family and friends and associates and clergy and people in the community. Anyone who would listen, a part of these groups, these cliques, these circles, these fraternities, these networks who base their existence off of what you have, who you know, appearances, how you can get ahead and use somebody else's reputation or utilize their resources or the illusion thereof. They wanted to force all the lies to be true. Because if you are plotting and planning premeditated, malicious intent with ill intentions and ulterior motives to ruin somebody's career and livelihood, block and stop them from entering into loving relationships and connections, you have to then go from the plotting and planning stages to using your whole army of bullies and clowns to try to help it, force it to be true. So you have a whole group of people that's overly hyper focused on someone else's soul's purpose in love life, their career path, and their finances, to the extent these same clowns and bullies pocket watch in a grocery store or a restaurant, stand over the shoulder, various angles, many different individuals and people, aiming and pointing the phone, recording and taking stock of what's being purchased, what the tally is, what the total amount is. Hyper focused on money that's being spent. This is done for many different reasons. This person is irresponsible with their finances, one false narrative. This person is overspending. Or how much does this person have to spend and where are they getting the money from? All type of different strange and deranged reasons. And the same army works around the clock 24/7 to interfere, to counteract, to block and ruin opportunities. And it's easy for anyone on the sideline to say, just move beyond it. Just let it go and get past it. But if you have a whole army that's stalking and pocket watching 24/7 around the clock, no matter what adjustments you attempt to make to move away from these fools, these clowns and narcissistic sociopaths, then how is it that one can sit on a sideline who has yet to experience these clowns and bullies and narcissistic sociopaths to say, just move past it? Because everywhere you go, the further and the more you try to get away from these devils and haters, here they come popping up yet again. Every time you retreat, here come these hating ass, jealous, weird, stalking weirdo, individuals in this cult, in this coven, who are fake, false, and phony, hiding in plain sight, having to be fake all day, every day, pretending within this cult, this coven, eavesdropping and ear hustling and hanging out in close proximity over your shoulder. And so it's easy for people to say, just let it go. When you, as a catalyst, know the divine blueprint, the divine planning, working towards that, holding on, doing everything in your power, waiting for those chosen ones, potentially chosen ones, divine beings and soul tribe to wake up, to begin forming that alliance, that divine connection and coming together. Because there's work to be done, there's work to do. And as the catalysts reach out to other divine and potentially chosen beings, this same narcissistic group, this same criminal network, utilize their resources and connections to get to that person first, to interfere and block that connection, block messages from getting through from either side. And then they send in one of their parasitic, narcissistic, fake, phony individuals wearing a mask. It could be an attractive person with accolades on paper, connections, and they use their best to love bomb, gaslight, breadcrumb, and pull that potentially chosen person in. Now, if the divine allowed a message to get through, to communicate with that person, and they decide to scoff or brush off, ignore the warning and the red flags, then that's their choice. There's nothing you can do about that, because that's the choice they made, to act and decide from an unhealthy ego and make their choices and decisions based on materialism, superficial reasons alone. And once they get caught up and swept under the current of these sinister criminal networks and group, of this wicked and evil seeds of individuals, it's very hard for them afterwards to realize the mistake they made and get back on track. They almost never do, because by the time they wake up and realize they made a mistake and went the wrong way, and start seeing the devils around them for who they truly are, they've already got caught up by participating in the same criminal activities, legalities, or have been entrapped, impregnated, and are locked into some type of bad contract or business dealing with these devils. So if they do have platforms or had a voice or had the ability to channel messages from the divine, their messages will go from channeled divine messages to explaining away and covering for certain individuals within the group. They'll go from the divine, intricate, channeled messages that they used to receive to all of a sudden every day trying to explain from different angles and cover the tracks and the reasons why certain choices were made, and trying to explain away and cover up the crimes that were committed, the atrocities, and why certain individuals were juggling and, going the wrong way and made the wrong choice and got with the copycats and the mimickers and the mockers and the fake false individuals who was wearing somebody else's energy, wearing somebody else's skin, trying to live in someone else's skin and use their energy, the false light. And so those channel messages that used to come from the divine will begin to fade away, because this is the beginning of them losing their spiritual gifts. And that was something that was communicated that would happen. And slowly but surely, they will no longer receive direct divine messages, because part of the consequences of them going the wrong way, making the wrong choice and taking the wrong actions and participating in creating demise and hardships for other chosen divine beings, is them losing their spiritual gifts, among so much more. I did a video over a year ago about everything you covet. The divine will use that to get your attention, to gain your attention. Be that finances, materialism, beauty. The divine will get your attention through the things you covet the most, that have you so distracted, not listening, not adhering to divine guidance and warnings. They have to get your attention some kind of way. So everything that has your full, complete attention and energy that you're focused on the most, when the divine is trying to get your attention and they warned you and gave you all the extended mercies and grace, and you ignored it and spit in the face of your spirit team and did what you wanted to do anyway, because after all, we all have free will, right? Don't we? We all have free will. We get to do whatever we choose to do, because we're gods and goddesses, and we get to do whatever we want to do, whenever we want to do it. Is that factual? Or is there still a hierarchy in place? Is there still a need to remember that our spiritual gifts that puts us in the image and after the likeness as gods and goddesses, angelic beings, that everything that we have and possess was passed down to us from those who preceded us? And it would be wise to remember that, opposed to strictly thinking, I got free will, so I can do whatever I choose to do whenever I choose to do it, because I'm a god and I'm a goddess. It would be wise to balance that out a little bit more and understand that there's still a hierarchy, and there are still universal rules and laws and principles that has to be adhered to. It's no different than divination abuse. You just can't, throw hexes and curses and spells at people because you want to swap destinies and steal what belonged to their ancient royal bloodline that is protected. But you have a group. I worked on a video. I might release it. I got tons of ammunition and videos that I don't even bother releasing. But I did a video talking about who has the right. Might have been a part 2 or 3 to it. But these groups are the ones creating the blockages, interfering and getting in the middle where they don't belong, and then they sit back and make it seem like you're slothful or lazy, or that you have an issue obtaining and attaining, good things, healthy, positive things, or making progress, when all the progress you make, these obsessed, envious, hateful, jealous people who are trying to isolate you and hide you are getting in the way and creating these disruptions and using their structures and institutions and departments and corrupt buddy systems to throw blockages and monkey wrenches in your path so they can force the lies that they told on you, the smear campaign that you're not capable of supporting and taking care of yourself. You're not good with your finances. Or you need somebody to be a power of attorney so they can hold on to monies and real estate and wills and trusts and estates that they stole and unlawfully put you out the will and change the documentation by way of your hateful, greedy family members. Or, they do all of this because it all boils down to money. Otherwise, there would be no reason to be overly consumed and focused on somebody else's life, their finances, and their love life. It boils down to money and energy. A cult and a coven, demonic practices, offerings to energies and entities, to destiny swap, extract sacral chakra energy, transfer physical ailments, illnesses, diseases, extract golden healing energy that cannot be found just anywhere from anybody. It comes from divine beings, that comes from beyond the stars. Yet these same idiots sit back and say, that person don't have spiritual gifts. When in all actuality and reality, that person is not even from here. That person is the spiritual gift. You want to create a falsehood, a narrative. That person is not tapped in. They don't have spiritual gifts. That person is not completely healed. That person embodies and is the spiritual gift. Now let's talk about the healing. We all come here for many different reasons, right? Ultimately, to walk our soul's purpose, our soul's path, remembering that this is an overall mission to earn our way back home and to finish this spiritual war, this spiritual battle that has begun long ago in the stars and spilled over to this particular planet, neighboring planets, Mars, etc., but ultimately to this planet. We have to remember that we're going to experience things in life that require us to learn, to grow, and to what? Heal. When you have a whole army of narcissistic sociopaths, hating-ass devils that try to block you from praying and meditating and being peaceful and at peace in green spaces and parks and sending their flunkies and minions and flying monkeys to ask you for a cigarette or to create distractions and loud noises and music and devils behind you over your shoulder shooting fake videos all of a sudden, and everybody finding their way over to you. You sitting over at a particular point, you walk way out of the way where nobody at, and you make sure you find a spot where nobody at, and then all these flying monkeys and sellouts and weak-minded devils within this cult and this coven all migrate and find their way over to you. And they keep this going over and over and over and over. And then they sit back and talk about, you're not completely healed. These are the same dummies and devils that's making sure you can't heal, that you don't properly heal. Because within the midst of you trying to heal, you're trying to forgive them as well. Because you understand when judgment comes and it's here, they're going to need all the mercy and grace that they can receive. But these idiots think that it's a great idea to disrupt and disrespect and disregard the sanctity and solitude of prayer and meditation with one's guides, spirit team, beloved angels and ancestors. They get in the way of that too by way of their hatred and jealousy. And then they sit back and say that person is not healed. Well, how about you try leaving them alone and going somewhere else and not being a weirdo, hiding behind bushes and trees, shooting fake videos and creating disruptions and playing loud music and trying to get their attention. And as soon as they close their eye, hey man, hey, you got a cigarette? You got a lighter? You got a cigarette? All that dumb stuff that they do. But then they sit back and say, that person ain't here. I bet you that person ain't here. You dealing with a bunch of idiots, narcissistic sociopaths that have more materially, right, and on paper, right, than the person that they drove into isolation that's in and out of shelters or sleeping on sidewalks. And yet they're obsessed and focused on the person who has less than what they have. And even when this person pulls themselves out of isolation and create more or newer opportunities, here they come again to create accidents or more lies and smear campaigns to block or stop or ruin that new opportunity that that person just pulled themselves out of isolation. And then that person sit for a few weeks or a month, and then they create and find another new opportunity. Then here they come again, trying to ruin, block, or stop out of desperation too, because these dummies is getting more desperate and more desperate, doing the dumbest stuff that nobody in their right mind would do. Nobody who have a life of their own would participate in. And you see it, the same pattern over and over and over and over and over. So those of you who this hasn't touched yet, be grateful, because those who are the catalysts is taking the brunt, the heat, is the decoy for you all to prepare yourselves mentally. Hopefully that's what you're doing, and accepting that this is the reality. This is a part of this spiritual war and this spiritual battle. So before it reaches your doorstep, decide where you belong. Where do you stand? Are you going to sit on the sidelines and just observe and hope it don't reach you? And as long as it hasn't reached you, you get to judge and, cowardly sit on the sideline, observe and saying, just move on. Just change your perspective. Just, where the heart and the mind goes, energy flows and your reality becomes. But instead of it looking at it that way, look at it like, that's interesting. That's a chosen one. That's another one of the collective. If the divine has them going through that, it's only a matter of time before it reaches over here, reaches me, reaches us as a collective. Maybe the divine is using them as a decoy for us to gather our resources and get ourselves together and prepare ourselves for this spiritual war. Not only that, what am I doing to assist that chosen one? How can I help that chosen one come out of that situation? Because obviously there's a divine plan and blueprint at play. And I know that I have to be a good steward and stand up and be courageous and not be a coward, judging, hoping it don't come over here. Stay over there, don't come over here. As long as you're going through it, they don't see me. Hopefully they don't see me. When in actuality, we're supposed to be good stewards over our resources and our finances and our abilities to assist. Because what happens to one eventually is going to reach and happen to the collective, even by way of general principle and lessons that have to be learned for allowing one to be out in the cold, witnessing it, watching it, and doing nothing about it. Don't think that the divine, the universe, and the cosmos is not going to teach the collective a lesson and have these energies and consequences reach everybody. Because at the end of the day, we can't say we're part of a collective and only allow one or two to go through what they're doing when they are the decoy and the catalyst. That's going to break this thing wide open, because we all have our parts to play. And many of you are doing well by doing what you're doing currently. But it's time to take it up and step it up a notch, because we can't say we want the protection, the healing, the gifts, and the rewards of the divine, but yet be too cowardly to step up and assist or play both sides, as many potentially chosen try to do. They make the wrong choices and going the wrong way and joining these dark cults and covens, even albeit being gaslit, love bombed, beguiled and tricked off their path. But that is because they didn't follow their own heart, discernment or intuition, or their spirit team and guides. That gave them the red flags and the warnings and told them, no, that's not your person. That's not your business opportunity. That's not the direction you're supposed to be going. And they still went the wrong way, too afraid and cowardly to take their leap of faith and listen to their heart of hearts. And now you see them every day, explaining away, making excuse after excuse of a past person who've already fumbled their blessing and already reneged and lost a divine contract union. And now you have other people around them explaining why they did what they did, but not even from an honest perspective, from trying to cover it up and butter it up and make it seem, reasonable. Not saying this person knew what they was doing the whole time. They chose to do that because it was an adventure. They only wanted the material, the money, the red bottoms, the trips. They even made videos about it, taking flights and trips, not catching feelings, something to that effect. They knew what they was doing. And the fact that they still are withholding information and lying and not being truthful and honest lets you know that it's a cover-up. People that's not even supposed to know each other or had crossed paths is explaining away for somebody that they're not even supposed to know. So how did that relationship form? Was it a mentor-mentee? Did it graduate into something else? How did it form? Because there's obviously a connection there for somebody to slowly, gradually move away from true divine messages to now make it appear that these divine messages is explaining for someone else that they're not even supposed to know. I know the energy ain't that deep. I know this one person ain't coming up in a collective that deep for you to be that intricate and know that much detail. Unless you know this person personally and got caught up with the same criminal network and activity. There must be some type of legalities or emotional bond and connection there. Whatever it is, you don't have to wallow and stay stuck. You could make the choice to be courageous and turn around, pull yourself out of there before it's too late. But if you choose not to, I understand that's your choice. Me personally, I do what I'm told as I'm guided to do. I understand if people don't recognize my value or see the worth or even like me in that way. I'm a big boy. I'm okay with that. But the thing is, you can't play these games with the breadcrumbing and gaslighting and love bombing. Because me, once I'm done, I'm done. So I give you the opportunity as an emissary for the divine. Not just me. Don't look at me as me. Look at me as an emissary for the divine. Because when I move and where I go, the ancestors in the angelic realm, they follow. Where I pop up, it's karma time. It's judgment time. You can be a blessing or not. The thing is, and I don't want to lose track, you have the opportunity still now to get yourself on track. The other person you're trying to explain for already fumbled and lost the blessing. They chose not to heal. They chose to do everything except tell the truth and apologize. You're seemingly going in the same direction. You're seemingly choosing to be puppeteered and listening to those around you who don't know what they're doing or talking about and allowing them to manipulate and influence you to make the wrong choices, opposed to listening to your heart and doing what you know to be true. The only thing that's going to help and save you get back on track, earn the respect and honor of your spirit team, beloved angels and guides, is to be honest and forthright. Not breadcrumb, play games, love bomb, gaslight, string along. That's not going to help you. If you don't want the divine union contract, that's fine. There's other divine sacred feminine out there who deserve it, who are not weak-minded, who are not going to be beguiled and tricked off course. And I'm not saying you're a bad person. You have great potential. You just chose to go the wrong way. You chose to make the wrong choices and to interact and get caught up with those wicked and evil seeds, those narcissistic sociopaths, whom I know you know by now. You can see it clearly. But when you get caught up with them, it's very difficult to break away from them because they try to entrap you from different angles that makes it difficult for you to walk away. And that's what the warning was long time ago, well, several months back. Everybody gets a warning from their guides, etc. It's just that you choose to ignore it. And that choice ultimately becomes your downfall. You're losing your spiritual gifts and your finances going into an array and, everything that was warned. And you guys usually don't believe it until it starts happening. Not because anybody cursed you or hexed you or did anything bad to you. It's because that is the consequences for going the wrong way, participating in these atrocities, and trying to sacrifice a divine being, a chosen one, an earth angel, and ignoring your own spirit team. They have to back up from you, walk away from you, and leave you to your own vices because you chose not to listen. What else you want them to do? They're not going to sacrifice the bloodline and their ancestry because you chose to be hard-headed, because you chose to not listen. So, you still have a limited window to stop trying to explain for somebody else who already lost their opportunity. If that person chooses to heal and be honest and start speaking the truth, then they can begin to get back on track with their spirit team. Doesn't mean that they're going to get that particular divine person in union back, but they will at least begin the long road of getting back on track and paying off their karmic debt and being respected and honored, moving past opinions and embarrassment of what other people think and feel. And you can stop explaining for that person. Start explaining how you even know that person, met that person, what you got caught up in. Maybe at this point you haven't gone as far as participating in what they've done. You have a greater opportunity to get yourself back on track sooner rather than later. But the way you're going now, this is not the way. Because the energy you're talking about is not necessarily divine messages. It's a connection there that's not even supposed to be, that you're trying to explain away and make excuses for someone who you're not even supposed to know and be intertwined with. And as far as my healing, I'm fine. I'm great. Am I completely healed? No. But I also understand it's because a bunch of idiots and hating ass devils intentionally got in the way to block it. But even with that, I'm so resilient, I still found ways to grow and heal and mature spiritually. Dum-dums. And I'm going to continue to do so with the distractions and disruptions and disturbances because I made the choice to stand firm, come what may, no matter what you dummies do or say. Doesn't matter. I'm going to keep pushing forward because I'm comfortable with who I am, because Archangel Michael and these beings revealed themselves to me, so I know them to be true. He pulled me into the spirit world in 2014. And before that, I had visions and dreams that I couldn't explain. So no matter what y'all say, I don't care about your opinions or your religious ideologies. I know the truth. And I know that these beings are real. And I know death does not exist. I know once we leave here, we continue on. But it's also an extension of your actions and deeds and your behaviors within this physical lifetime. In this physical skin suit is what you're going to contend with after you check out. So those of you who believe you're taking secrets to the grave, and those of you believe who, once you leave here, you don't have to worry about the weak-minded, evil, atrocious deeds you've committed. No, you're sadly mistaken. You're going to have to contend and deal with that stuff on the other side as well. The only difference is time ceases to exist. So it's going to seem like an eternity of the suffering and all that you fear and afraid of the most when you have time to correct yourself now while you're still here and the ability to get yourself back on track. I'll leave y'all with that for now.